Well, it depends on what aspect you speak of. If it's in terms of spectrum, which is something a high priority for the FCC in managing the electromagnetic spectrum that we use for many different purposes, then that's one thing. If it's in terms of where the standards may lie or which may succeed in the marketplace, we tend to defer to mostly to the marketplace and see where that goes. In the auto situation, it's been a little different because we have a history. We've been involved, the FCC has been involved for quite a long time, and certainly most people know of our involvement recently in the 5.9 gigahertz band.
Well, let's talk about that.
Sure
In November, you made a decision where you're going to put your weight behind the CV2X interconnectivity standard, and at the same time, you reallocated a portion of the spectrum that had been previously devoted to the automotive realm to other uses. Can you talk a little bit about that decision, which has put you at odds with automakers, safety advocates, and even the Department of Transportation?
Well, a couple things. I didn't do that. It was actually agreed upon amongst all of my colleagues. So a unanimous decision to move forward after a 20-year process of giving an opportunity for success in what's known as the safety band, the 5.9 gigahertz band. There was a lot of opportunity to succeed, and it didn't happen. And we're to a point, I think, frustration combined with the dire need to add to unlicensed spectrum uses. But at the same time, I wouldn't say that we picked a technology. We have allowed and are going to see what takes off in the marketplace. I certainly am favorable towards the CB to X, but we still have an opportunity for the DSRC in some form in the overall 30 megahertz package that will be reserved for automobile safety purposes.
So yesterday, Audi made an announcement here at the show that they're doing a pilot program with CV2X in Virginia with VDOT and Qualcomm. As part of that presentation, they were mentioning that an autonomous vehicle throws off more information each day than the Hubble telescope does in a year. Is the bandwidth that you have dedicated to automotive big enough? Is that a big enough pipe for autonomous vehicles?
So the answer is yes. We believe that it will be sufficient for those purposes because we've talked to the CVDEX engineers and those people who've been engaged in this. And I go back to your previous question. It wasn't against anyone's interest, but if you look at who's supporting what, I can find no car auto manufacturer that's still involved or still in favor of moving forward on DSRC and actually putting it in its vehicles. So that's a mindful thing that we had in terms of making a decision. So we're cognizant of the need for automobile safety and the need for spectrum. We have allocated, my time at the Commission, additional bands for a number of different purposes, wide swaths of spectrum at higher frequencies for a number of different things that are incredibly, vehicle radars are, that we are mindful of the need to do so. But in this particular band, we believe that CV2X can address the piece that we've allocated and still have opportunity for a modified DSRC. Because let me back up a step here. People said, "Oh, you did this." Actually, what we did was we put on a notice of proposed rulemaking, which is our direction on where we want to go. And then we're going to take in a lot of comments, and a lot of folks have been commenting. Some of it's been quite full of hyperbole. It's a little bit funny to see some of the things that have been said about this topic. But then we'll take that record and we'll digest it and make a firm, a final decision at some point. Hopefully, I would like to see that happen later this year. Summertime seems about great for me, but we'll just see that's something the chairman gets to pick in terms of the timing. So I'm excited to see what this, because it's a balancing act. Not only are we going to make sure that there is a ban for automobile safety for the two-way communications, but there's also an opportunity to address the dire need for additional unlicensed services right next to 5 gigahertz, is one of the reasons why 5.9 is so popular. So
there's tremendous demand for bandwidth. Is the system set up flexibly enough that if automotive needs additional bandwidth in the future, you can allocate it from somewhere?
Well, there is a constant fight for new bandwidth at the FCC. That's what we do on a daily basis, and we try to work through those issues. We don't just allocate a portion and say, here's some spare that we think you might need, you might grow into at some other time. That's not how we operate. That's not an efficient use of spectrum, and we saw what happened over over the last 20 years when we did that. You know, when people talk about, oh, DSRC is so important in the 75 megahertz, but they're really only talking about 1 or 2 channels that are being used today, the safety channel and the secure channel. The rest of it is not being used, and many of the purposes that people thought were going to be used for those bands or those channels, are being done with other frequency bands and other technologies. And so we're mindful of that. We've done our homework. This isn't something that I just came upon last year. I've been working on this issue for 4.5 years, so I'm very knowledgeable, I think, on the subject. I've been out to Michigan. I've driven the autonomous vehicles. I've talked to the safety folks at the University of Michigan. I've worked with the different folks and done a number of different test drives on DSRC and CVIDA-X. So I've done my homework, I think, on the topic, and we're finally getting to a point where we think it's a good landing spot.